Hi, so what we're going to look at now is now that we've got sort of a basic setup, we've got our color scheme, we've got all of our content, we're going to look at some extra stuff to make your infographic particularly memorable. So for our schedule section, I have grouped everything into day 1 and day 2. Now, since the days were different dates but the same time, I decided to break it into this nice balanced half and half fix. What I am interested in doing is making this a little easier to read, maybe having some lines, maybe having some more interesting graphical elements. So basically, I'm just going to show you what can be done. This does not necessarily mean that all of this stuff should be used, but just different options that you have in PowerPoint when you're making infographics. So one of the things that I really like to use is if you go to Insert and then Shapes, you've got something called the arc. And what you can do with this is you can drag out lines and create these interesting shapes with them that you can then use once you hover over the edge to create a single shape. So you can have a solid fill, you can have a gradient fill, you can have really whatever you want with this to make whatever kind of shapes you're interested in making. So if you do need to have a particular shape and you want to draw it out, that is one of the easiest ways to do it. There are a lot of different shapes you can use in here that are preset in PowerPoint that are really, really nice. Let's say you wanted to make some sort of like skyline looking set of objects. You could build out a bunch of blocks and put them next to each other like this. Let's say I built one and I wanted it to go behind the other one. I could say send to back, but since I don't want to do that, notice that if I put it here, it's not behind that other building, it's in front of it. I can say send backward, and if I do that a couple times, it'll go behind this other guy. So now we can make it look like it's actually behind him. So if that was something I would want to do, I could totally do that. So that's pretty cool. So you can build out shapes of your own making. You can insert shapes that they automatically provide, which is really, really nice. But most of what I tend to use is just the simple line tool. So if you click and drag, you've got your line tool. Notice that it sort of snaps when you have a certain angle. But if you want it to just go straight down, hold Shift and drag all the way down, and it'll come with you. If we have our format panel up, which is just this button right here that says Format Pane, we get a lot of interesting options in here. I'm going to make my width a little bit bigger so that just so we can see everything, because right now it's a little bit difficult to see. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So our line is kind of this blue color right now, and I'm going to change that to just sort of that darkish gray color I like. And it's about 4 point in width. What's really common for scheduling, for stuff like that, is sort of a dotted line. You can go to dash type, and you can pick any one of these that you like. I think that looks kind of fun. It's a little much, so maybe I'll choose. That's even worse. Maybe this one. Yeah, I think that looks nice. I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to have it on the other side as well. So now I've got these two lines in here. I'm going to maybe make them white instead. Yeah, I like that better. Something else you can do, something that I like doing in particular, is having bands of color. So if I take this square right here and I drag it across to, let's say I just want to highlight this section right here. It's over the top of this, which is not good, but let's say I just want it to be a white fill that's kind of see-through, you know, kind of like an overlay. I can, in the format pane, change it to white and adjust how see-through it is. I don't want the outline on it, so I'm going to hit no line. And I can adjust it however I like. I don't necessarily know if I think this is exactly what I want for this, though, so I'm going to take that out. Generally, you're just trying to give them a method to follow. So if I was continuing with this part, I would want some lines that would break this down. I would probably want to include some more graphical elements that made these areas more interesting. What I like about this section is that it's kind of this like mountain shape on either side. So I'd want to do some sort of line or arc that mimicked that. So maybe I would do a white line circle. Maybe that would work. So if I hit circle in recently used shapes, I'm going to make a big old circle. I don't want it to have a fill. I just want it to be a solid line. I'm going to hit white. I'm going to zoom out a good bit. And I like the idea of this extending to the edges of our infographic, but not going further than that. So I'm going to bring it right to the edges, and I'm going to make the width something crazy, like 20, 30. Yeah, why not? So this kind of gives an accent to this section right here that I think is really interesting. Our yellow box in the background has a line. I don't want that, so I'm going to take that off. And then, of course, I don't want this circle. This circle is just a nice little added benefit. It's not necessarily something that I want to cover up other stuff. So I'm going to highlight all of the stuff in green, and I'm going to say bring to front. And now it is on top of our yellow thing. And I'm going to take the green thing, I'm going to give it no outline. Now we have a lot more control over this. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take our text boxes, I'm going to take all of the stuff that we have in the first section, and I'm going to make sure we can bring that over the top of our white circle. There we go. So now we have this kind of nice white circle. If I wanted to make it smaller, make it bigger, whatever I want to do, I can definitely do that. So towards the bottom, we have our pie chart section, but we don't actually have a pie chart made of it yet. Normally, what a lot of people would recommend is to make something in Excel and bring it in, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually make something in Excel without having to worry about that. You can make it through PowerPoint. So if I go up to Insert and I hit Chart, I know that I want this to be a pie chart, so I'm going to go down to Pie, and then we've got a bunch of different options here. So we've got donut, we've got a pie with a little sub-pie, we've got a pie with a little bar in it, which is pretty cool. But let's say I just want to make a regular, good old classic pie chart. Automatically, it opens up Excel for you. So let's look at PowerPoint. It gave us this pie chart. Come here, friend. Come here, buddy. There we go. It gave us this pie chart down here. And if you look at this, we've got the title, we've got first, second, third quarter, fourth quarter. We've got all this different stuff in here. I'm going to make this smaller. Remember, you can hold Shift to do that. This isn't how it's actually going to end up looking because it's way too small right now, but that's okay. But we've got first, second, third, fourth in our key. Let's look back at Excel. That's exactly what it says here. And we know that this is the title of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. I'm going to update this to really reflect our data. I'm going to say participants. Yeah, sure, all caps, why not? I'm going to say BViz students PT students, and just for now I'm going to say rehab science students. If I delete this last one because I don't need it. Let's see here. What did our data say? It said 21, 17, and 4. I'm going to go back to Excel. 21, whoops, 17, and 4. I'm going to delete these rows, and I'm going to go back over to PowerPoint, and we've got our participants list. And in here, we can change this to however we want it to look. So I can change this to our big flashy header. I can change it to this, which is probably what I want to do because I want this to really showcase our results. I can change the individual colors of everything if I want to by double clicking on stuff. So if I go into here, I can change the border. I don't particularly like borders in my pie charts, so I might go ahead and take those out. But if I wanted them in one, I could have it in one. I'm also going to make very sure that I update this to be whatever colors I want it to be. But keep in mind that that is probably easier to change elsewhere. From there, let's take a look at the bar graph version of this. So we had motivation, intimidation stuff, 2 for this, 1 for this, 1 for this, 1 for this. We can make a bar graph of that going down, or we could do, let's see here, let's see what our options are. Just a set of columns in general, so I could do a 3D one if I want to. I could do, yeah, it's got a ton of different options here. One thing I do want to warn you against is right now, if we're looking at this, this has a really flat, easy, minimalistic style, which means that going 3D is really not going to look very good. It's going to throw off the entire balance of everything. Now, one last thing to look at, I do have my references down here. I have my little icons made by thing. And this is really, really important. You want to make sure that you license wherever you get your icons from. So at this point, once you get a lot of that stuff in, you can start thinking about what symbols represent what stuff. I think in particular, a lot of this is going to be good for explaining parts of the schedule. So if I didn't have this big circle, a lot of what I could do is including icons next to like prompts, ideas, sketching, things like that. So I'm going to include this here. I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to take this icon and I'm going to bring it down here with our results, because I think it's really relevant for the results to explain. You can make it really big. And if I wanted to, one thing I could do is send this backward behind some of my text or bring my text up forward and mess with its transparency so that I could have it as more of a watermark effect if I wanted to. So that is generally the gist of making infographics. This obviously is not a complete one. There's a lot of text I would probably edit down. There's a lot more imagery that you could include, but this is a general overview on how to build infographics and what the most important parts of designing are. So just remember while you're designing these things, the big key elements are organizing things, giving salience to things, being consistent with a style guide, choosing colors that go well together, and having a good balance, having a good composition and a good balance of content, including text and images. Now, If you are ever in the need for a very quick infographic maker, you can Google online infographic creator, and there are a bunch of different software things online. However, some of those come with watermarks, and building something in PowerPoint is a really easy, fast way and a free way to make something totally custom, totally perfect for whatever your needs are. If any of you have any questions at all, my email is, let me write it up in here. sbond7@UIC. So if any of you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And I hope this was helpful. I hope you all dive into the world of building infographics. So thank you so much.